So today we are here with Dr. Hinebaugh,
Okay.
and she's going to let us know about servant leadership. So if you wouldn't mind just starting with a little explanation about how you got to where you were here.
Awesome. So thank you for letting me talk today. Been in Amarillo for 23 years now. I started here right out of my MBA program and I kind of never left. I think the reason why I'm sitting here is to talk about leadership and servant leadership. And I think the main thing is, leaders, they plan, they lead, they organize, they control. But a servant leader gets up every day and does something for someone else to help fill maybe their own cup. I know a lot of aspects of my job. I deal with a lot of happy students, unhappy students. But I think at the end of the day, if we can all just take a pause and really start thinking about how we can help others and do it in a genuine way, it will make us feel better about ourselves.
Okay, well, kind of jumping right into the first question, then, how would you define servant leadership?
So for me, the kind of leader that I like to see or work with is somebody who literally will jump in and do the exact same job you're asking your team to do. And I think that's the type of person that I like to surround myself with. And when you're building a team, you should look right and look left, and they shouldn't look like you or sound like you, but they all should have the same common values. And I think the idea of having a perfect team might not exist, but the perfect elements of a team exist, right?
Yeah.
You can have confrontation, which is actually a good thing, right? Confrontation means you're growing. You can have disagreements as long as they're done in a constructive manner and you're not hurting others. You are allowed to have your own beliefs as long as you're done it. You communicate that in a way that's authentic to who you are, right?
Yeah.
My lived experience is very different than your lived experience. I talk a lot about how in my class I grew up in Northeastern Ohio. In my town I grew up in, you were either Catholic or Jewish. Until I went to college, I never met anybody who didn't look or sound like me. I know that sounds bananas, but we're talking 40 years ago when I was a kid. That's what the landscape of life was. We're so connected now with our smart devices that we easily can look. Growing up as a kid, I had a line of encyclopedias in my house where I could go look and read about Africa and Asia and Greece and things like that. But to pick up a smart device and just go and be a part of that didn't exist. So I think from the time I was little, I understood that we had to give back. And so it was always either about a mission trip or it was about getting involved in the community. We lived in what's called Tornado Alley. And so we would have a lot of disasters that would hit our town. And I remember being a kid, you would just go and help out your neighbor. It wasn't like you were waiting for FEMA to come or the Red Cross. You would just be like, what can I do? I've got a chainsaw. Oh, I have a tub of paint, or I have mulch. And so everyone would kind of work together. And I think from a very young age, I learned that that really is fulfilling. And so I think that is probably catapulted to where I'm at as an adult. That I just feel like if you help others, it really makes your life just more fulfilled. And I like to do a lot of things outside of work that deal with that. And I think I probably don't share about that because it's pretty personal. But something that I've been really passionate this past couple of years is my husband lives up in New York City, and he lives in a neighborhood called Washington Heights, and it's predominantly Dominican, and they have a food pantry. And so this past 2 summers, I volunteered twice a week at this amazing food pantry that feeds over 750 elderly people. They go in, they get to grocery shop, no questions asked. There's a garden. And for me, it was cool being a part of their team. And I also got a chance to learn Spanish, which I'm really horrible at, which I've got really good because I've now been a part of this team of humans that have really embraced me. And so I've learned a lot from their leadership as well.
Wonderful. Okay, well, kind of tying that back, how have you seen or exemplified servant leadership on campus? Because that is something that is obviously important to you.
What a cool question. So I think because I have 21 students who report to me, so I have a huge team of students. I have an army of, I call them students. I have my peer mentors, I have my tutors, I have my ambassadors, I have my desk workers. I like to empower them to find a project that they would like to embrace, either in fall and spring, and they come up with an idea of something that they would like to do. So for instance, last spring we did socks for seniors, and we raised over 1,000 pairs of fuzzy socks, and we went to a nursing home and we delivered them, just because who doesn't like a nice pair of socks?
Yeah.
Even outside my door right now, we're collecting for for the Thanksgiving brigade. My ambassadors have committed to 5 baskets. I told them I will get their gift cards if they can do the fundraising to get the canned goods. We have our food pantry on campus that my students like to supply. We have a professional dress closet in our college where no questions asked. You can come, grab something if you need, even for an interview or if you have a presentation. We have everything from Spanx to socks to, and I think that aspect of being a leader is learning that everyone has a seat at the table. If I'm sitting in my classroom, I always ask my students, it doesn't matter if it's grad or undergrad, who's the most important person in the building. They immediately say either the president of the university or they'll say our dean. And I say, Bill, think again. And it's Miss Judy. She's our housekeeper. And Miss Judy is, first off, if you don't know Miss Judy, she's the goat. She's who she's talking to today. And I say that because of Maslow, right? So if your basic needs are not met, you can't reach self-actualization. I thank Miss Judy. We did not get COVID in our building during our COVID time, as well as we don't get sick because she does her job so well. She also comes every day with a smile on her face. And so I think if we can, as faculty and staff and students, look into what other people do, we can make our world a better place.
That's so beautiful.
And I do believe Miss Judy, she's fantastic.
She's, every time I've seen her, she always has a smile on her face, or she's cracking a joke.
Yeah.
She's having a conversation, checking in on students. It doesn't matter if they're a business student, if they're an aviation student, if they're an engineering student. If they're around her, she's going to say hi and see how they're doing and bring them right in. Yeah.
I also think leadership can get messy. You have to make tough choices. You have to have teachable moments, especially when you're running a team of students. A lot of times they will have things that happen in life where they'll miss shifts or they come to work late. You have to have teachable moments. And the great thing about college is you have this opportunity to live in this bubble of sorts where you can learn skills and hone in on things that you're good and bad at. So when you make those tiny tweaks as an undergrad or a grad student, you will only be better in the real world. And to me, that's about being a leader.
Okay. Have you had any experiences you would be willing to share of those teachable moments?
Yes. So my grad student, if she could walk in here right now, her name is Rose. And I'm going to use her as an example, and she wouldn't mind them giving her a shout out. My first interaction with her was she was an undergraduate student and she was on her phone. And I have a rule in my classroom that I give a countdown about phones, right? I'm very intentional that I want people to live in the moment, including my own self, who my phone is ringing and everything, to live in the moment. So I did the countdown and she wasn't listening. And so class had started. She's still on her phone. Little do I know why she's on her phone, but that's a separate story. And I just said to her, I'm like, are you going to get off your phone now? And she's like, you're being rude to me. I said, no, you're being rude to me. And so we had this very heated kind of conversation. I said to the class, I said, we're going to pause for a moment. We're going to go to the hallway. And I said, put away your phone or leave. And she goes, I'm leaving. Okay. Obviously, I go back into class. I finish the lecture and I'm feeling, a little, I'm feeling like I missed the mark, and I felt sad that there was probably something more going on. Mm-hmm. So I sent her a message. I said, hey, come and see me. I want to know what's going on. So she came to my office and she explained to kind of what's going on in her life. And I said to her, hey, let's push a restart. And so she said, I appreciate that. She said, you met me where I needed to be, because she was going through a really tough time with a very personal thing. And flash forward 3 years later, she's my grad student. We do research together. And I consider her probably one of my closest students because we had that tough moment and we worked through some really cool stuff.
That's amazing. Not a lot of people are able to think back and be like, maybe I did miss the mark, as you said. Maybe there is something else going on. And a lot of students, they won't even care to have that conversation. They'll just, no, you treated me that one way. That's your wanting to enter. You never can make another first impressions.
As this was first day of class kind of behavior. And I think my behavior triggered something that she had experienced in the past. So we were coming from this almost like a fighting mentality. And so I disarmed the situation and we are now very, really close. And we actually laugh about it.
That's beautiful. That's amazing.
And I have a couple of other shared stories about that too, where I've had to fire students. And that's not ever fun.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell them, I'm firing you now. But the door is always open to come back. And when you're ready to fulfill your responsibility of what needs to happen for the job, you come and talk to me. and we will make it happen. And they usually do come back, and I rehire them the next semester.
That's beautiful.
Yes, because sometimes we all just need to step back.
Yeah. Sometimes we just need a break.
Yep, not a breakup.
Not a break. Exactly. How do you feel about, I heard another admin say this the other day, I want to treat you as the adult you're going to be, not the adult you are now.
Oh, I love that, because I think my responsibility as an educator is to hone in on the skills you already have and making those little tiny tweaks where you can practice. And yes, you were amazing now, but if you could only see what you're going to be like in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think planting the seed is kind of like growing a garden, right? And when you plant those seeds, it's cool to see what happens towards the end of summer when you're getting ready for harvest. And that's kind of like graduation or launch for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see where you become. My happiest moments, and I'm going to cry, is when you guys come back. And I call this on Fridays, pretty much from the beginning of the semester all the way until Christmas. I have students who just surprise me. And they just show up like cats. And they're like, Dr. H, I'm here in town, and I'm here for 6 seconds, and I just wanted to give you a hug. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most beautiful thing. And even on Sunday, I was flying standby because my flight got canceled, all these things. And I was the last to get pulled onto the plane, and I was all the way to the back of the plane. And, you kind of like begrudgingly go back to the back of the plane. You're like, oh, I'm by the potties. I sit down. The guy next to me is eating Funyuns, which is super gross. I'm already kind of, you're kind of just hangry, right? And then this pilot comes walking down the aisle, and he stops in front of me right before he's getting ready to sit down in his jump seat. And he says to me, you're Professor Reese's friend. And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, you're Dr. H. He said, I never had the pleasure of having you in class. But I had Professor Reese 6 years ago, and she's my favorite instructor. I know she's one of your close friends. I gave you my seat so you can sit here so you can go home to your family. And I think when we talk about how interconnected our industry is, I sat there going, I can't believe this individual who's getting ready. Like, he was going to touch down in Daytona, drive to Orlando, and then fly out to LA. He gave me his seat, so he sits in a jump seat. It was unbelievable and so beautiful. But I feel like that's the energy we have on this campus. And that's one of the reasons I love you guys as students.
That's beautiful.
And thank you for Mrs. Reese for being nice, because I got to go home. Thank you.
Definitely a shout out to Mrs. Reese.
Yeah, and his name was Lance. I didn't get his last name, but I was just like, how cool is that?
That's beautiful. And it's, kind of looping back to what you said, you have a clothing drive here?
We do. So we have a full. So it started a couple of years ago when I had students who would come the day before Career Expo in like a panic of, I have nothing to wear. And it's like, what do you mean you have nothing to wear? You're wearing clothes. No, I have nothing dressy to wear. And so I said, you know what? All of us have closets with tons of stuff that we don't, maybe you not wear anymore or whatever. So we decided to start taking donations. And so we have a full closet for everything from suits to shirts to ties. No questions asked. You can go there and get as much as you want. We just say thank you. It's now as big as one of our offices. We've almost outgrown the space. It's a really cool project. If I could walk you over there, you would see it and go, wow, this is really nice. A lot of times when students get to go to like MBAA or a conference, they'll come and get their professional dress. It's great for an interview. It's just kind of nice to have that, like, oh, this is pretty powerful. And I think it came back from when I was an undergrad. I had a professor who, at the time, I did have a blazer that fit me. It was like oversized and kind of like shoulder pads and really awkward. And I remember wearing it to a pretty important meeting. And she said to me offline, she's like, hey, can I buy you a blazer? And I remember me saying, very kind of embarrassed, so, no, I have my own money. She's like, no, I got you. She's like, meet me at whatever the department store was. And we met there. And she's like, I want to buy you a blazer that fits you properly. And the only thing I ask is when you have an opportunity later, do that for someone else. And so I think that's always been in the back of my mind was Yale was to pay it forward. And I will tell you, that was pretty awesome.
That is beautiful.
So that's kind of, that was pretty cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and now Gail is like a vice president at Ohio State, so it's pretty.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you have some amazing connections, and
they're all basic. It's just about connectivity. I believe the energy you put out in the world is the energy you get back.
and everyone's fighting some type of battle. If my husband could walk in right now, he would say I'm like a duck on water. He's like, my feet are always moving underneath, but on the surface, it looks kind of calm. But there's always like some movement happening.
I feel like that's pretty on par for your doctor.
Yeah. So that's why probably we came about with a professional dress clause. It was just my knowing, even as a young person, I didn't have the right clothes.